2 p.m. rolls around, and now it's time for code reviews. In the case of a quality engineer, they're also a developer, so they will also attend developer code review sessions because they're going to have a perspective on quality as it relates to low-level coding as well. But in our case, we're looking at scenario-level behavior. It's important to understand what I like to call the ground rules of code reviews. We want humans to focus on the things humans are good at, so we don't care about code formatting. Tabs versus spaces, does this brace go on this line? Why? We have tools for that. Typically called linters, these are tools that exist for every programming language in existence for automatically formatting the code for you. So you don't need to focus on this in a code review. The second issue is don't worry about common coding issues. That's because there are tools known as static code analysis tools that also exist for every language in existence that will automatically detect common problems and bugs inside a given code base. And the standard practice is to run these as a part of your build process and not allow these issues to be checked in the first place. That way in a code review, you're not having to focus on why is this try-catch block have an exception, but nothing's done with it. The static code analysis tool would not allow you to do that in most every language, like Java, for example. And finally, no broken code. Code that doesn't work is not integrated and therefore is irrelevant. Nothing personal. Your broken code doesn't matter. When you have working code, let's talk. So we have the CI and CD practices that validate this for us. Anytime we're making a code change in any piece of software, it automatically triggers build and test out there in the cloud so that we know that it integrates and it works. And so if the build is currently failing for a given piece of code, we're not going to worry about it. Go fix your code and then we talk. And then from a non-technical perspective, we have the most important part, which is no ego. This is not about one person's experience or senior or junior. This is about having a group of people look at a problem and look at an implementation and provide their own perspectives on it. Everyone's going to have a different perspective and different level experience, but it's always good to get a second set of eyes on a problem. Because consider that the first function of code is to work, but the second function is that someone else has to understand it. 5 years from now, somebody's going to be on this project looking at this code, and we don't want them to have to spend a month trying to reverse engineering it because it looks silly or it's spaghetti code. When it comes to reviewing the changes, the QE is going to bring up the actual code to look at, in this case our Gherkin format scenario, in combination with showing how it runs. That's because this is going to be a lot higher level than what the other developers are working on. We're looking at not just one component, but running multiple components together. So the real focus is on what is the scenario for delivery. I already mentioned I have to make a purchase. And then after I make a purchase though, given that I've made a purchase, the test actually gets to go out and pretend to be that third-party vendor and call this service so I have an image and details to look up. I'm having to mock the behavior of the vendor in this case. And then I also show that from a CI perspective that it's been added, with the delivery job running inside the current pipeline, and then it passes. So looking at this, there's going to be discussion on, in a lot of cases when talking about the details of web-based test automation, a lot of the focus is going to be on one of the more technical aspects, which is how are you looking up components within inside the web page. This is very nuanced, but when looking at how you pull up a web component out of a web page, it's not like a human being. You have to use a CSS selector or XPath to pull up a component out of a page. And this is important because one of the reasons that web-based tests can be so brittle is because a lot of these technologies, when they're generating the content you see on the web page, are doing so using dynamic IDs. So every time you refresh the page or their application gets reloaded, the IDs are going to be different. So it's very important when doing component selection to do so in a way that's not going to change the next time someone redeploys the apps. So this means to avoid using IDs which appear to be dynamic. And that takes a little bit of experience. Things that are numbers are probably dynamic, definitely GUIDs are dynamic. And so we like to use text indicators. Like if I want to click on the button for login, I won't say, give me the button of ID ABC12345 That's dynamic. I'll say, give me the button that contains the text login. And so that's where the focus of the code review is going to be on. We want to make sure that we're looking up components in a way that is not going to fail.